Go for it.
Hi. Hello, everybody. How are you? Okay, I will go to the opening reel before we come back and join you in a short while, all right? So see you. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Elephant in the Room. With me here is Taranjit Singh. How are you, Taranjit?
Good, thank you, Mohan. Good, thank you. It's been a interesting day. Good feedback from a couple of the participants and viewers yesterday. I was very pleased that we've hit a couple of nice nails there. So today promises to be an interesting day as well in terms of some of the topics that we'll be talking about. Mohan?
Okay, so maybe just looking forward to more people to join us. And as you come on board, maybe you can just drop us a hi in the comment section below so we know who you are. And also, if you have questions, you have inputs, feel free to actually put them online so that we can either deal with the questions today or if not, in the subsequent next few sessions. So that's one. Second, we are also very excited to actually announce that all this live stream, we are going to collate it and park it within our new YouTube channel. We will share the link down there in a short while. So we hope that you can actually come and subscribe to this new YouTube channel where you will have the collection of all our daily Elephant in the Room series being documented here. And lastly, before we come to today's show proper, we thought if you could help us a bit to share this around, if you can start a watch party on your Facebook page or your Facebook profile, that will be deeply, deeply appreciated. So look forward to continue the conversation. Please let us know. Just drop us a comment, say hi to us, and then start the watch party.
Well done. Thank you. Thank you. So, Muihan, just to continue from yesterday, let's dive straight into it. We ended up yesterday by talking about micropreneurs and the impact that this type of environment will have on them specifically, and that was where we ended. And just to recap, there are essentially, in my mind, three fundamental pillars that this crisis is looking at. One is around the area of the healthcare, a bit of a recap here. Two is the area of social based crisis, where social distancing is coming into play, and that's impacting us at the work approach and the whole concept about how do we go to work and where do we sit whilst we're at work. What about the cafeterias? What about the refectories? And how do we sit in that regard? This has tremendous ramifications on places like the universities, where you've got thousands of students coming in at any one point in time. It has tremendous ramifications on the big corporate entities, where you've got hundreds of individuals working at any one point in time. So the social crisis is also the other one. And the last one was the area around an economic-based crisis. And we've seen this already playing out. And there is, coupled with this, three firestorms, there's also the whole global so-called slowdown that is currently being experienced as well. So we are in a very interesting state, and this is what leads us on to the next question from Dhamiri Petra before we wrapped up yesterday, and the question basically involved the area of agility and how agile should SMEs be in sustaining themselves moving forward. Muihan, I know you've got a bit of a clip that you've prepared. Could you share that with us, please?
Yeah, sure. Maybe I will just to recap what Dhamiri shared in his comments yesterday, so that maybe we can pick up from there.
So whilst we're waiting for Muihan here, a couple of things are actually playing out, and I was giving some thought to what Dhamiri had asked, and this whole question around agility. and this whole question around what does it mean for us as an entity and for us as individuals. And there you go, that's the clip there.
So yes, maybe I'll just read it again so that we are all on the same page. So Dhamiri yesterday at the end of the show, thanks for commenting and maybe also getting our thoughts on it, said that this MCO has shown that when it push comes to shove, companies can actually quickly adapt and adopt new working methods, including coming up with temporary working policy. Post MCO, there shouldn't really be any excuse for companies not be as agile as they are now. So the thoughts on this, okay? So that was what Dhamiri's input was, okay? Maybe I'll just offer my perspective first, then Taranjit, you can actually come and come in later in that sense. So I think one of the important things in my experience running so many change management consulting projects for different clients, especially in the areas of implementation, new system, new process, new culture. One of the key pertinent things that most change management methodology will use is to actually create this so-called burning platform. So to ensure that actually there's a reason for people or their staff or the organization to see why they need to undergo this change. And a lot of times, I think the rational portion of things are very clear. Why, the benefits, and so on and so forth. However, you might also know that a lot of these initiatives and transformation, especially, and I think this is a well-documented study by McKinsey, that more than 70% actually fail. And that's where I would say precisely because of the emotional portion of it. So similarly, I think in this MCO is very emotional. That's why the moment it happened, we jump on the bandwagon very fast. But I would say that come post MCO, when things back to normalize a bit, there will be a challenge to actually get people to go back. Two things: either the organization want to keep this very lean way of working, and maybe getting a challenge for people to go to continue in this sense, or to actually get our people to go back to their sense. So there are two sides of the coin, and I feel that both sides will arouse a lot of emotions in that sense. Maybe I'll just get Taranjit in. What do you?
Yeah, thank you, Nguyen. So there are two things here that are playing out in my mind. One is the magnitude of change that is taking place, and for some outfits, it has impacted them quite negatively. So much so that, we're seeing this all the time, especially over recent weeks. They are literally going into dormancy. They're going into hibernation for some extent. And in some instances, the very worst scenarios, they're actually closing down. And I'm receiving mails in this regard. And that's very, very sad. However, what also happens is a new normal has started to take place. And the new normal is the fact that we can do work to some extent away from the office. That's the first thing. The second thing is, how many people do we really need to have in the office to make the office tick? Is it the full 100%, or is it the 50% that we were looking at in this regard? What also then happens here very emphatically is, if I can do work with less, can I now do more with that same bunch of people? And so these are now very difficult questions that organizations will probably need to go through, especially from an operating model perspective. And I see that playing out more and more as we hit over the next month and a half for those people that are now looking at sustainability in this regard. And that then begs very difficult questions around where does that then leave us from a perspective of an employer? Where does that leave us from a perspective of an employee? So these are two fundamental issues that that it'll be interesting to see how these will now start to unfold over the coming weeks. We have Muihan, we have a very good question here by Dr. Michael Heng. Maybe you want to address that?
So hi, Dr. Michael. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for also participating. Really appreciate that. Keep it up, keep it up. Wonderful to have this conversation. So yeah, good. I think the question, maybe just to read it out, is to say that how do we define agility during this COVID-19 times? Personally, I feel that the agility can work in multiple ways, and in our context currently, this whole idea of working from home is definitely proof to us whether we need a physical office to be professional. And I think a lot of industries have been playing around with this, thinking that whether removing the person from office or removing the staff from office, whether the productivity suffer. I think some organizations have effectively done that, especially I think the multinationals have been doing this, that regardless where you work, it's not so significant as long as you get the work done in that sense throughout the years. But many more companies, especially the local companies, always have this challenge. And I think that stems a bit from different kind of support, which I will touch upon slightly later. So if in the first case, I think agility is where the place that you work. And also the other one is also that I think focus very significantly is whether the idea of how agile, in the sense that we are able to continue to do business, very much due to the non-physical nature of meeting each other. So there are two aspects to it. I think physicality to come together as an office, that's our spatial portion of it. The other one is, I think, is a very social kind of thing. Because a lot of times we always advocate that business is actually a very relationship, social management thing. And we cannot run away from social management from actually gathering in a lot of times. And now, because of the MCO, because of the lockdown in other countries, we are technically asked or barred from being gathering in that sense socially. And we find that actually without physical gathering or community togetherness, whether we still able to function as effectively. So that is the other portion of it in that sense. And of course, technology helps in a bit. And I think how we are coming to terms to actually using this technology for more effectiveness. So there's some perspective that I have. Maybe I'll get Taranjit to add some.
Sure. Thank you, Muihan. So I actually will take it one step further. One of the things that we need to look at is a notion of trust. This was a point raised very emphatically by the managing director of CMI for the region, the Chartered Management Institute of the UK for the region, Mr. David Jones, at yesterday's webinar. And he raised the point around, do we actually have a level of trust between us and the people that I will now let them do the things that they are expected to do in the time frame that is required, to the results and standards of excellence that is required and expected of them. So, and that is a very big notion. If we don't have that level of trust to begin for, then say, guys, you can actually work from home in an effective fashion. Simply because I don't genuinely believe that you will be doing the things that you'll be doing. So that's the first thing that I will be looking at in terms of the mental fortitude and the mental notion and the mindset to trust my people to do the right things. And in return, we also now have the whole issue about, does the individual carry that sense of responsibility and accountability? Or is he or she going to be seated there on the side whilst all the difficult things are being done within the organization, albeit virtually? So it's a two-pronged approach that we need to look at. Issue of trust from the employer to the employee, from the manager and leader to the staff, as well as a question of responsibility and commitment to do the right things from the staff to the organization per se. And I will add that on to your 2 points, Muihan.
Great, great, great. I think there's a subsequent follow-up from Dr. Michael. Great, man, Dr. Michael, keep it coming. Maybe I will just put it up here before we move. Dr. Michael said most companies, many companies were caught on the wrong readiness footing by the virus, like a monkey that missed a branch. How do these companies, I think he corrected in the next statement to say is soft landings or catch onto other branches to hang on, okay? So maybe, Taranjit, you want to just give your thoughts to that first before
Sure. And I think the important thing here, if you think about why they were caught wrongly or why they were caught off-footed, for example, was because they perhaps were not thinking about this in a future-centric sense. Business was coming along. There was nothing wrong with the way we worked. The need for digitalization was not there. We always had the office at the back of us for us to go to for our files, and all that, the ability to put stuff onto the cloud, to put files onto the cloud, to allow for digitalized invoicing as a very simple example, to talk about how we manage customer relationships and product and services via digital platforms. All that was already there, but unfortunately people were a little bit slow, or organizations were a little bit slow. Fundamentally, why? Because there was a level of investment.
Yes, I think that is very, very pertinent per se.
The soft ability and speed for us to be able to adapt to the changing requirements that is expected. Muihan?
Okay, that is definitely what I will look at, what will be happening in that sense. And I think for these companies, one of the way to actually reverse some of these ill effects, which they were caught off guard, in my opinion, is also really to come back in a very calm manner, per se, to look at if you do not have maybe a BCP or business continuity plan in place, then maybe it's high time, especially during this period, to start looking into developing one. And I think there's also a lot of conversation around that, especially with the SMEs per se. So I think first thing first, need to really quickly look at the key things that need to be put in place post, the lifting of the MCO to start with. What are the key areas that actually needed? So that when it comes, of course, that is, that's almost given in a lot of sense. One thing that I think was very good in debate, I think over on most social media as well as on LinkedIn, which I saw this big debate going on, because a lot of times we keep encouraging everybody to be productive during this time. And there's this whole notion of productivity is needed, so that when we go back to office post MCO, that productivity don't need to drop too much, and then we can come back online very fast in that sense. But I think more importantly, as business leaders, and I will keep this one very strongly for most staff and their people that they lead, is it is a very trying time. And I think that when we are subjected to this kind of uncertainty and fear, both at a health level, as well as also thinking about our future per se, we are still very emotionally triggered into a series of response, stress, and things like that. So I think that whole idea of empathy is very important, and taking care of the people, I would say, should be part and parcel at BCP in that sense, right? Shouldn't be very, too overly focused just on business strategies, action plans, so to say. But I think the people component of it need to be very, very important. So which means to say, even during this time, and I think we got another 2 weeks or so to before officially, I mean, it could be renewed further. Business leaders need to also start communicating to their staff on more empathetic level to a certain extent. So inbuilt in your daily discussion with your staff or with your people that you're having meeting to solve business issue, but don't forget the people element of it. It is actually very critical, I would think, during this time. Yeah.
Okay. Can I add on something to that?
Yeah, sure.
Dr. Heng, good question there. What can we do to prepare ourselves? In addition to the communication, and I think over communication right now is ideal. We want to overly communicate exactly where we are, and for all intents and purposes, even the financials, because that is the reality that we have right now. Or the thing which also then gets me is the ability now to start reflecting on the issue of cash preservation. We don't know how long this is going to last for. The natural implications of this as an organization is going to be quite severe. So cash preservation, in my mind, will be ideal for us to have that at the top of our mind. That's going to allow us to pay our people. That's going to allow us to at least keep the lights on whilst the building is closed. What also comes across immediately there would be a reframing for tomorrow. There is a future-centric approach that we need to take, and that future centricity will have a very different operating model than where we see today. So just examples from a training and development perspective, the way in which we go out there to train and develop will be very different. Classrooms of 30, 40 people in a class may actually be very difficult to go into right now. So how long will this last for? It's anybody's guess. But naturally, people are going to be very concerned about whether or not they are safe in a classroom of this fashion, given what we are currently going through. So that's the other one. The third one that I would also then look at, to Muihan's point, is a level of empathy to deal with the people. I'm already sensing, as a consultant myself in this particular area, we are already sensing that levels of anxiety is very high, levels of emotional distress is very high, and to some extent, counseling has now taken on board a big time. You've got levels of potential depression coming into play. And these are things which we cannot and should not take lightly. It impacts not only our community that is around us, but it also impacts the way we are going to sustain ourselves for the coming weeks and months ahead as a business. Muihan?
Great. I think there's some additional comments here by Dr. Michael. Thanks. Thank you for your participation. But I think we are about almost time to wrap today's show. And I'm very happy that we got this very good perspective. Maybe what we'll do, Dr. Michael, is probably we will take the gist of some of this, and maybe we'll continue the discussion tomorrow, especially to your radical idea. I think that is something that I think very interesting. The review and re-strategizing of even marketplaces. So maybe we will take that discussion in for tomorrow, so that we want to keep to our time. Maybe just coming back to summarize a bit. I think very importantly, and I want to maybe just to also address the Dhamiri comment per se yesterday, to close our session and offer some food of thought for us, is that I think if we look at the perspective of the other way around, maybe we were trying to say that there's no reason why we should go back to normalcy, because we can survive in the MCO period where we work from homes and things continue to be, functionally as well, and as well as is push come to shove, we are able to move. But on a more personal thing, and also probably this is something that happened in my household as well, as I was just talking to another business associate. You'll be very surprised that not many people like to work from home. It's not as easy as what it is. So I think we also need to take into consideration for those folks who say that I know it's nice that I'm the comfort of my home, but actually when I work from home, it seems to be more stressful because I have to juggle multiple balls now, and there's this constant distraction, and as well as because I can't move away from my seat. Now my video calls are I'm doing like 14 hours a day, and it's like back to back all the way down and non-stop and things like that. So there is where come the employee side of it, and I think the employee experience is very, very critical. So in moving forward, while I think we want to push a change, and I think the change has very good intents for productivity, efficiency as well. But I think we shouldn't lose focus on the people aspect of it. And the people aspect of it, I think summarizes a lot of it in that sense, in my opinion.
Agreed. I totally agree. And I think we cannot underestimate the importance of that empathy and the relationship that we have to continue to fortify with our people around us and the staff as a whole. So yeah, I think it's a nice end to the series, at least for today, Muihan. And we've got a starting point for tomorrow, which is around a radical review of the BCP and what needs to be done post MCO.
Good. So thank you once again for those who are joining us. We hope that we'll see you again tomorrow. And yeah, we will be putting up the link for tomorrow's sharing. And so we hope that you can also share this link with your friends, as well as your business associates, your colleagues, so that they also can be part of the conversation. Do remember later to subscribe to our new YouTube channel, Elephant in the Room. We will share the link in a short while. Right, and thank you. Stay safe. See you again tomorrow.
And one last point, happy Vaisakhi to all those brothers and sisters of the Sikh faith. Thank you very much.
Oh, I forgot that. Yes. Happy Vaisakhi.
Thank you. Thank you.